I've got this drum rack I made using a bunch of different drums that I put together from the session drums pack. One of these session drums pack, I forget if it was which one. On Ableton's site, they've got these really nice drum kits called session drums, and they're multi-sampled, and they have a lot of variety. They sound great. Sound realistic. So I might demonstrate a little bit with these, and I might even do like a drum machine too, just to kind of show. I think I will just open like an 808 or something. Maybe we'll go in here, just write 808. I love the keyboard shortcut Command F to get into the search bar here. It just speeds things up so much. There's the Core 808. Put that over here just so we have it. And X that out. So let's see. I don't think there's even anything on here. If there is, it's nothing important. There was something. We don't need that though. So the thing that happens when we're programming drums with MIDI, especially, is the computer is too perfect. That's the real problem I think we're fighting here. You know, one great way to get your drums to sound natural is to actually play them. So, like what Animus is doing with an electronic drum kit, or even just finger drumming on a push, like that will take you a lot further. Um, the problems come in when we're drawing in notes or even programming on a push, and when the velocities are all the same and everything starts to just sound exactly the same every single note you play. So I'm just gonna program in a simple beat here. It's kind of like a rock beat with some hi-hats, closed hi-hats, and just duplicate this out, and we can hear this. You can put this on the 808 kit too, just so you can hear it over here too. You have to change that to a hi-hat. There we go. It's just never changing. It's always the same. And maybe even to make it more obvious, if we were to duplicate out the hi-hats, like it'll start to be like really repetitive after a while. But people just don't play like that. No matter how good they are, they're not that perfectly on time, and their tone isn't always that perfect. And also, if you've ever played with a real drummer, they're never that disciplined to play the exact same thing over and over again. That's something that just happens. That you just throw in a ghost note here, you change the hi-hat a little, or change the kick drum pattern just a little bit. These are things we can do to kind of start making things sound a little more realistic. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this drum kit isn't the best example, because I believe this is sort of like a round robin type drum kit. We got like our closed hi-hats here, and I think we're getting like some kind of randomization to the samples. We got a random, yeah, so we're probably getting a little bit more variety in this kit. So I tell you what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just get rid of that, and we're just working with the 808 kit. It's a drum machine, so it kind of already sounds like machiney. Well, one of the first things we can do, I think it's the place where most people kind of start, is velocity programming. We can see here all of these drums are playing at the exact same velocity, which I think is about 100. And if we go inside our 808 kit, look, we got these nice new snapshots here in Live 11, which is exciting. We can open up our closed hats, just have a look in here and see that our velocity is actually doing anything, and it is. So we've got the velocity affecting the volume by 50%. So that means if I were to take these hi-hats and just play them and move them around, we can hear the volume moving. Put them just a little bit higher so I can distinguish them from the other hits. But again, it's just so machine gun rapid fire perfect. So we can go in here and just alter these a little bit. So I might alter like the upbeats here. Generally, when it helps a lot to think about how a drummer plays if you can. And generally, like the downbeats are played a little bit more with more emphasis. So I might just bring down some of these offbeats a little. And you can get all different kinds of feels to your patterns depending on how you move around the velocity. Maybe if I'll just solo these hi-hats now. You get this kind of like, it has more of a feel compared to what we had before when everything was just all the same. If you listen to this, it's kind of hard to like feel where the ones are and the twos are and all that. But if I just remove it back to what I had, you can kind of feel the beat a little bit more, which is extremely helpful. And we can do the same sort of thing with some of the other drums. Let me go back in here. So I might think about like my kick drums. They're generally, you want them pretty solid. You want to feel those. So you don't want to like kind of have them too off with velocities, but you might think about like some of these other less prominent hits, like the ones on the kind of main parts of the beat are really important so that they hit solid. But maybe like this one, we might kind of reduce a little bit. Just a little less energy. You could increase it if you wanted to. If you want to emphasize that particular part of the beat, it'll be up to you. You get just a little more feel to it that way. Now, one of the nice things about Live 11 is rather than necessarily going and putting in these exact velocities, we can use the velocity range, which is really cool. Because even though I might have this 1-bar loop that's got all these different changes in velocity, it's still the same thing repeating every single time. It doesn't ever change. So 1 bar always sounds the same. If we use the velocity range here, we can tell Live that we want this hi-hat to play anywhere from here to here in this little shaded area. So I put it down to -46. So if this was at about 100, it'll go anywhere to like 54 or so. And I have this kind of extreme. This might be a little more than you want, but let's just hear how that sounds. I'll solo those hi-hats again. Much more variety happening here. And it's never the same. It's always going to be a bit different. So for me, this new velocity range is a great tool. Right away, this 1-bar loop will never sound the same. It'll always have a little bit of variety. If you're not working in Live 11, there's still a way you can do this. You can go inside your MIDI effects and we can grab the velocity device. There might even be a preset for this. Add some random. That sounds like what we want to do. We want to add some random. So I'll just drop this in on my drum rack right before this closed hi-hats. Now I could put it in front of the whole kit and that will give some random velocity to everything. But if I just want it on the hi-hats, I can literally drop it right on the pad here. And here we have add some random. So let me go into this clip again and we'll take away that velocity range. And maybe we'll even just make everything 90. And I'll start with it off. You can solo that. It's the same exact sound playing over and over again. But if we add some random, we got that movement. And the random is controlled with this dial here. We can go pretty wild, very random. It's going to play a velocity either plus or minus 64. Or it's a 64 range, actually, I believe. So there could be a 32 up and 32 below. I believe that's how it works. Maybe we can double check that. It might tell us right here. Modulation incoming notes that's not clear. But we get much more random the more we crank this knob up. And then back here, we have no random at all. This isn't even doing anything at this point. So it's got more of a feel, more like somebody that's hitting it, that just can't physically hit the hi-hat exactly the same way every single time. I might take that out because I'm kind of enjoying working with the velocity range, which is more or less doing the same thing. I guess maybe the advantage of the MIDI device is that it'll go plus or minus, so it can go above or below this, whatever the velocity is. So this yellow line represents the incoming velocity, and the gray represents the possible outcomes. So the more random, the more possible outcomes. I'm guessing this must be 32, because if it was 64 above and below, it'd probably cover like the whole thing, right? That makes sense. So, I mean, you can sort of get that same kind of effect if you know you want, I guess, like, if you really want to have it move between like 6, you could just change where you have this and then lower that. You know, if you imagine you wanted it set at 64, you can just move it up a little bit, and then you've got your range up above and below 64. So you can think of it that way too. So you get kind of the same effect. I just find it really nice that it's right here. It's not a separate device I have to bring in, and it's something I can change per clip. So I can have another clip where the velocity isn't random, and that's really helpful. So I would say, all in all, this sort of, for me, makes using the velocity device not necessary, at least for randomizing. So that's a fun feature, and we've got now with just a more alive hi-hat, some movement happening. And I kind of like doing this to all of my drums, honestly. Even like something like the kicks where I want them to be a little more solid, I just won't do as much. Maybe just like about 10, say. So if we unsolo that, yeah. Now my kicks have a little more variety. I can select the snares by just hitting the key here. I can do the same thing with them too. Just a little bit of variety in the volume of the drums right now. But that's not the only difference, the only thing about a human. It's not just volume. It's even tone. Even the tone of it is going to be affected too. So sometimes I like to go into, say, my hi-hats and change the filter a little bit. If you think about when you hit a drum, it gets a little bit brighter. A cymbal, same thing, a little bit brighter the harder you hit it. You get just a little more tone, I guess. It's not, you still get a lot of that stuff, but the energy is just a little different. So sometimes I like to just put a little velocity modulation on my filter. So I'm going to do this kind of extreme so you can hear it. And then what I'd probably do is make it much more subtle. So again, we can just listen to the hi-hat. This will make it really obvious. Just so you hear what it's doing. It's moving this around all over the place based on the velocity of those hi-hat hits. And since I have some randomization going on with my hi-hats, we're getting all different filter stuff and make that really extreme. That filter's moving all over the place. Sometimes you don't even really hear it. So that's probably more than we want, right? And we don't want those high resonant peaks in our hi-hat. But if I bring this down a bit and close the filter some, or open, close. This is, I guess, is opening the filter in this case. Since I'm so far over to the right here, let's turn the key down to 0, just so that's not doing anything. I don't think it would matter. We're not playing different keys, but we're just getting some slightly different tones now. And I'll turn off the velocity on the volume. So we can just kind of hear that it is still doing something to the hi-hat. It doesn't sound exactly the same every time. Really emphasize that if we play around with the positions. So it's doing a lot. We don't want it to do quite that much. But I think you can hear that that hi-hat doesn't sound exactly the same every time anymore. Bring that to 0. Exactly the same every time. Now we got some variety. This, I think, is something best done very subtly. But I do think it makes a difference once you start bringing in the volume as well. We kind of cranked that up before. I think we had it to like 50. Now we got a hi-hat that's kind of moving a bit. And we had set all these hi-hats the same, but we could go in here and then just, I'm gonna shift select those. I can just pick those off beats again. And maybe I'll just bring these down a little. I don't think I got that one. Bring these all down a little so we get that movement in the hi-hat. Maybe we won't do quite as much in the randomization here. So we're getting that kind of like emphasis on the more downbeats, and the upbeats are a little less emphasized. Okay. Joe, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm trying to follow along with you here on the velocity the velocity markers down there. When you have multiple multiple beats in the same beat, well, we have multiple hits. Is there are different handles down there for the, like where you have two beats? There's two handles, and do they correspond with the? Okay, they're lighting up.
Yeah, you can tell that this is the hi-hat because it kind of lights up there. And
Okay,
this is
yeah.
the snare. It kind of, we'll select that, and now the snare kind of lights up. And
Okay.
you'll also hear it too if you have this headphone kind of monitoring thing going on. You'll hear it as you move it. It'll just sound it for you so you can tell like where you are.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that can be tricky. When I first programmed them in, it looked like there was just one. If I were to
Yeah, it
let's
looks like it's default, and I just realized that just as you were talking, I was dragging a couple of the defaults because I'd thrown in some different beats.
So if I put like just a bunch of notes, we're not seeing all those different handles there. Unless I
Right.
actually go in here, I could do it right on push and show you. I'm moving one of them right now.
Well, does that if you highlight one of those additional ones, doesn't it highlight it down at the bottom? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
now I'm just moving
Right.
that one. And if I select more than one, then I can move them all. And you'll
Right.
notice they kind of like compress and expand with each other. And if you go all the way to the bottom, then they all become the same.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't need those, so I'm going to take those out. Yeah, it's kind of once you start playing with it, it makes a lot of sense. And if you find like it's hard to figure out which one you're trying to grab, you can hold. If you're on I guess Mac it's Command, and Windows it's probably Control. If you hold that when you hover over any MIDI note, now you've got the velocity control. So when I click and drag on this, I'm not moving the note, I'm moving the velocity. So
Oh
that's a
wow.
handy. That's a nice
Yeah. That's.
shortcut.
I guess you could be with 11 for a while and never stumble onto that.
Yeah, and that's an old one too. Um, so sometimes I find it easier to just hover over the note and just move it like that while holding Command, and then I can move it to the thing I want. Then I can just drag the velocity, or I can just drag the note. So that's Command on Mac or Control, I believe, on a PC. I don't have a PC, but usually whenever it's Command, it's Control on PC.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So now let's see what else do I have. We talking about velocity ranges. We got the other thing that happens with drummers is, And any actual musician, if you've ever tried to play anything on a controller, you'll notice that your hits don't always land right on the note exactly. That just we got Papa Bear is here. I'm letting Papa Bear in. It's Alt on PC. Okay. Thank you guys for clearing that up. I don't have a PC to reference it for. So it's not Control on a PC, it's Alt. You might get something different when you hit Control. I get the context menu. I don't know if that's what you guys get. Hello, Papa Bear. Welcome to our little class chat conversation hangout thing. Control duplicates. All right, that's funny because on Mac, Option is, which I always thought was also like another word for Alt. Option is the duplicate. So okay. So yeah, velocity, yeah, how hard they hit the drums and the volume is definitely one consideration with the drummer, but it's the timing as well. It's near impossible. I don't know anyone that has perfect timing. And even if you look at professional drummers that are even playing to a click track, they don't have this kind of perfect timing. And what I think you kind of quickly learn when you start programming stuff in with MIDI is like that the the imperfections in the timing is where the feel happens. It's where the groove starts to go on. And that's what gives drummers their kind of vibe and their way of playing. So we can think about moving notes around a little bit. I find that it's kind of nice when my drums don't all hit at exactly the same time. Um, when everything's hitting at exactly the same time, it's just it's too perfect. Even if if a professional drummer, I'm just not hitting the drums at the same time. So sometimes moving things a little bit helps a lot. And it depends which way you move the drum, kind of depends on the feel you want. If you want a more laid back, lazier feel, it makes sense to move your drums a little bit off the beat. So I might slide the snare over just a little bit, maybe just a little bit there. Or I might do it with the hi-hats. It depends on, whatever you want. You can honestly, you can do it with everything if you really want to. I'm just going to shorten these so they don't interfere with each other. So I'm just making these shorter notes. But I might take like my off beats here, and maybe I'm just gonna like move them a little bit to the right. They're just a little bit late. This is really like what swing is. So if I move them like a lot, you'll hear we get like a swing feel. Right? Now that sounds much less mechanical already, but we don't have to be that extreme. We can be really extreme. But we could do it in subtle doses as well. And it gives us like, I'm like moving as I'm sitting here. I'm like, it just starts to happen. And however much you move them, you're really just adding swing. So maybe I just move these a little bit. But this is kind of, again, like mechanical speaking. I might even just kind of at random just move around the timing of these individually just to kind of get a different feel. Animus, you're saying there's Max for Live that humanizes the timing with a random delay on each note. I don't know that one. I wonder if you know where we can find that, but I'm sure, yeah, that seems like something Max for Live could probably do really well. Or you don't even have to do this, you can just have it alter the timing of the MIDI on your own. So one thing too that I think happens when we're mixing, if we have everything perfectly on the grid, that means like all of our transients are hitting at exactly the same time. So it can be harder to get like some separation out of your sounds if all the spikes in volume happen at exactly the same time. Again, that's just not natural with human players on any instrument really. But if we just move things slightly off the grid, we can get that bit of separation. And I've found at times I've been able to make parts stand out in my mix without changing the volume at all, just by moving the timing of them like ever so slightly. That can be something you can try if things aren't quite right. But let's look at, I can show you a non-Max for Live way. Oh, what's up? Papa Bear is Comma Boy. Nice. Good to have you here. Glad you made it. Let's see. So, do I want to go into the? Yeah, let's do it. I'll kind of bounce around a little bit. I'm trying to move this because I'm trying to access the groove pool. So, the groove pool right here is a handy thing, and I'm not even going to get into grooves just yet. We might do that a little bit later, but all I'm going to do, I'm just going to. No, we don't have that right click choice anymore. It used to be a thing where you browse the groove library. I guess because now in Live 11, they've put the grooves right here. So you can just, they're all here. And they're not in folders anymore, which I'm a little sad about. They're kind of just everywhere. But, which is why right-clicking and browsing groove library was kind of nice. But anyway, I'm just take anything. It really doesn't matter. Right. Now, the bass tells us like which notes are going to be affected by the groove. We can select quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th. I'm going to have it on 16th notes because that's what my beat is playing in. I got all these 16th notes. Quantize is like a real-time quantization. So we can quantize this to the grid using the groove. And I can kind of demonstrate that for you, I guess. Let me put on like that, this like hi-hat swing I had here. So it's kind of like clear that things are a little off. And we can put the groove on by going into our clip now that we have it in the groove pool. We can select this Burn the Witch groove. I'm going to turn the timing off. I'm going to turn random off and velocity off. If I move the quantization, you hear we lost that swing. Now it's totally straight. So bring it back to 0. That swing I put in there has changed. What's cool about this quantization, if you use grooves for something and you want to use it for quantization, you can in real time figure out what percentage of quantization you want. And it changes in real time. Because normally if you go to quantize, through here in the quantize setting, you have to pick your percentage and then hit enter. And then you just see what you get. Same thing on push. If you're using quantization, you can set the percentage, but then you don't hear it until you commit it. With the groove pool, you can in real time just kind of like experiment with the different quantization settings. I love that. I think that's just really nice. Just to give you an example, if I were to play a beat on push, okay. So here's my beat, and you can see I'm off. You can hear I'm off. Not right on the grid here. I'm pretty late over here. So if I put this groove on here, you can hear my more sloppy performance. I'll put the metronome on so you can hear it in comparison. When I go to 100%, I'm totally on. But maybe I don't want it 100% quantized. I want something a little looser. So I dial it back, and I'm telling Live, only move this note, say these guys that are way off, 75% closer to the nearest 16th note. Or 68%, whatever I have. I can hear it in real time. And this, just using quantization in this way is a nice way to maintain like the humanity in your performance. If you play something, whether it's on pads or on a drum kit, like Animus was saying, you can use a percentage quantization. And you could do that without the grooves at all. You can just right click here and choose that you want a 45% quantization. Let's do 50%. And just watch these notes move like halfway closer. So like maybe we'll pay attention right here where it's kind of far off. It's going to go halfway to the grid when I click OK. Doesn't go all the way, it goes halfway. So it's kind of like a compromise. It's like we'll take 50% of your performance and your sloppiness, and 50% we'll make it halfway closer from its distance from what it's supposed to be. When we
Is
use a
that,
group,
that's 50% of all the notes, or it's 50% of 50? Is it half the notes are quantized to that level? It's
no.
all the
All of the selected notes that I have here are
okay,
quantized. Instead of normal quantization is it brings it 100% on the grid. It's perfect.
right.
50%, it's just going to move it halfway there. So I'll show you it one more time, just so you can see it in action. Quantized. I don't have anything set, so it'll do everything. 51%. It's going to go to about here. There we go.
Right.
And they all move. But if I only select like just this note and then I go into quantization, only that note moves.
So I guess those other two, timing and random, have to do with what I was getting at with that first question.
Timing. Okay, so let me explain. So we can use this quantize to just quantize our beat perfectly or to any percent in real time, which is really cool. Timing has to do with the groove itself. I want to come back to that. We'll come back to that one in a minute because that's a can of worms, and it's an exciting can of worms. I don't want to gloss over it too much. So, timing and velocity, hold on to for 1 second. Random, if we put these two at 0, so they're not doing anything. What random is going to do is just randomly move the notes around at a certain percentage. So, if let's quantize this 100%, right? So I could press this button, which commits. So it's going to actually move these. When we do it in real time, we don't actually see the notes move until we commit it. And I press commit, and those notes now move right onto the grid because I had it to 100%. Now, listen to what happens when I turn up random. I'll put the metronome on. Okay, let's put the groove back on. Once you commit it, the groove disappears. So I'm going to put that back on. So let's do that again. Starting to hear like a little distance between the click and then where the notes are hitting. Now it's starting to get a little more sloppy. Once we get to like 100%, it's like just messy. It's just like a sloppy drummer. We can bring it down a little bit. Maybe like 30%, you kind of get away with. Has kind of a nice feeling to it. So this is just moving the notes around at random a little bit. So that can be something nice to do. So if we do that in conjunction with everything else, so forget this beat I played and this one we were working on where we played with the velocities, we put a little swing in there, and I think we put the groove on here, right? A little bit of random. Now this beat is always changing. This 1 bar loop will never be the same. We've got some randomization going on. We've got some movement in the velocity ranges on those hi-hats. There's a lot of range here. I think I did on everything, right? Snares, bass drums. Maybe the one extra thing I'll talk about before then I'll come back to the timing of the groove pool is this little guy right here, this new feature in Live 11, which is one of my favorite new features. in all honesty. I just think it's an incredibly wonderful idea, and that is chance. So chance, every note has a chance as well as a velocity, and you just have to click this little chance button here, and you can see that all of the notes have 100% chance. That's the normal operation. You put a note in the MIDI editor, in the piano roll, and it plays. It's supposed to play. That's the deal, right? That's the agreement. But we can have our notes now have less than 100% chance of actually sounding. So that means I can take these hi-hats, and I've got them all selected, and let's just bring them down to like 73%, say. And now you'll notice they have this little black corner that tells us that it has some kind of probability or some chance to it. So they're not always going to play. They're going to play on determined by the chance meters or flags or whatever these little guys are called here. So if I play this, you'll notice that they'll play 75% of the time. So about 3 out of 4. We get those like little spaces in the hi-hats now. We can make it more drastic if you like. Now it's 38%. So we only get some of the hi-hats. This beat will never be the same. It'll always have a little variety to it. So if I like my hi-hats a little more busy, I might have them like that. I could, let's save this clip down here. I could duplicate this clip, play this one, and maybe on this clip, the hi-hat, the drummer doesn't have as much permission to use the hi-hat. So we have a less busy hi-hat version of the clip. Then we got the more busy one. And we can do this with all the drums. Throw in some extra kicks. So I just threw in all these kicks that I don't want to play every time. So I'm going to bring these guys way down. So now these are playing 33% of the time, these extra kicks. I love this feature so much because the way I think about this, I imagine I have like a real drummer that I'm playing with. And these are the kicks I want the drummer to hit, right? These ones that are at 100%. And these are the kicks that I'm like, all right, fine. If you got to get bored and do something, you can hit these extra little kicks every once in a while. But not that often, just like here and there. So it's like I'm giving the drummer permission to have a little fun, but I don't want you to put a kick here. I don't want you to put a kick here. But if you want to stick a kick here and there and here and there, okay, every once in a while is fine. And now I got this beat that's like always changing. And we can apply the same kind of rules we did with these before. We can adjust the velocities. Maybe these velocity ranges are much more freedom for the drummer. They can be kind of ghosty notes. Again, same thing with the snares. We put 2 snares here. Give them another 2 over here. And we'll just select all these guys. And these are going to be like, well, first I'll adjust the velocities. They're going to be like quiet snares. And you're not allowed to do them very often. Like a 20% time. Or maybe I'll even lower the velocity range so they're just. So just every once in a while, the drummer's allowed to kind of throw these extra notes in there. And they're real. Those snares are really subtle, like you can almost hardly hear them. And these could very easily be on a different drum even. You know, whatever you want to do, you can maybe give them a rim shot. My drummer likes the rim shot, we'll say. And we got quite a lot of variation going on here with some of these features. So let's see. We wanted to maybe go back to the groove here. So the idea of the groove pool is we can move our MIDI notes not to the grid. We won't quantize to the grid. We can actually go quantize to someone else's beat. So there we go. I got Walk This Way. This is Aerosmith, Walk This Way. Maybe I should start with something simpler than that. Where would our like MPC swings? We'll do something like so. Like a lot of the old drum machines had like their own swings to them, so you can quantize your beats, but then you can add the swing in later. And many people swear by them, that they just really give this song like that feel. And I've noticed they do. They sound pretty cool. All these really are technically, they're just kind of like MIDI clips. You can actually drop them on a track here and see we've got, let's fold this so we can see it. It's just got this C, and we can see that the downbeats are right on the grid, but the eighth notes or the upbeats are off the grid. And they've got this like swing pattern. We can hear it if we don't have anything playing, so we can just, there's no instrument there, but that's what that sounds like. So let me just program a new beat, just something fresh. I muted that, huh? So just so we have something new. Just putting in some basic, real simple beat. Sounds like this. So if I were to put this groove on this drum pattern, I can do it two ways. I can drop it right into my groove pool if I want, put it right there. Or I can actually just drop it right on top of this clip and it will apply. You'll see it show up here. I can drop it here too, it looks like. Drop it right here, boom, and now this groove is applied. And we got more company, cool. So this clip now has this groove applied. So we got choice now. We got that Burn the Witch one, we got this one here. And it's set so we can quantize it first if we want to. There's no need to quantize this because I programmed it in. Everything is exactly on the grid. The timing, though, has to do with the timing of these MIDI notes in that groove. So if I have it at 0%, we're not going to notice anything on this. This isn't doing anything. I'll just stop it. But as I turn it up, we start swinging those upbeats. So what the groove pool and the timing of a groove allows you to do is, so think of it like this. Quantize will move your notes closer to the grid, but timing will move your notes closer to the way this MIDI clip is set up. So these eighth notes get moved around. We can do, let you hear another one. This will be even more extreme. Let's bring that down a little bit so you can see it. So we got 73% groove. So that's going to be, should be more extreme. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong clip here. Right here, 73. Let's hear what that sounds like. Now that second hi-hat is very swung. It's very late.
Swung.
Move it back, and now it's not so much. And when we put it 0, now it's just back to where it was. So let me column back in here. So the groove pool allows you to get like this kind of like special type of quantization. Now, where I think the groove pool is really exciting is you can take an actual song, you know, or a performance. You can take a beat you played on like a real, maybe play with a real drummer, and you know, you have them play a beat and you like the groove of it, but it's not perfectly quantized, which is why it has a groove. If it's quantized, it doesn't really have a groove. You can extract the groove from there and it will create one of these groove files for you to use. So I don't have a ton of music on my computer here, but I like to use the Aerosmith example because I know it has
Aerosmith.
Yeah, it's got a beat in the
Again.
Did I do this already?
Teasing. Teasing.
All right, come on, man. Just because it's got the beat in the beginning, right? And I think a lot of people know this beat. Right? So we got the beat here. Let's zoom in on this beginning part. Let's warp it. And this is our first beat, so I like to make a warp marker here. Right click, set 1-1 here. So now I'm telling live, that's the first beat. The song has a little bit of silence in the beginning. We don't want that to confuse us. And we can hear this now. And we can hear that this is the beginning of the third beat. So let's put that right there. I'm actually pretty close to the actual timing of the song. Maybe I'll just adjust that so that's right at the second beat. And just to not have to bother with the rest of the song, I will right click and I will crop the sample. I will first forget to loop the sample. There we go. Command L will loop that. Now, I think I even got to move this guy still. Now I'll crop the sample. There we go. So now I just got this beat, right? And take a look. Our friend Joey Kramer of Aerosmith, his timing is a little off. You know? That's why, according to legend, Steven Tyler has made him nuts because he used to give him a hard time all the time about his drumming. But he's got a good feel, though. So we can, like... That feels nice, I think. Yeah, I think a lot of Aerosmith fans around the world agree. We can right-click on this. You can see I've done it before. I've got well, this isn't it, but I've got grooves for this. If we go and, where is it? Extract grooves. What Live is going to do, it's going to look for all these transients here and give us MIDI note information that we can quantize or groove time adjust our beat to. So let's extract the groove. You can do this for anything. You can do this for audio clips, recordings of musicians playing just one thing. I believe you can even do it on drums, on MIDI. So if you like the MIDI performance, you can extract the groove from your MIDI performance even.
I was going to ask about MIDI.
Yeah. So like if you banged in the drums by yourself and you liked it, you can extract that. And then it's kind of nice to apply that to like a bass line or something.
Yeah.
So we got Walk This Way here, right? We can apply the Walk This Way groove now to one of our other performances. So let's do this one that's like real tight here. And we'll select Walk This Way. We'll put it to 100%.
Wow.
And let me, let's do this. Boom, bop, boom, boom, boom. Right, that's pretty much the beat. You'll hear the difference. We'll take the groove off. No groove. You can hear this kind of like this flamming happening because my drums are perfect, but these drums have the vibe and the groove. So there's a little flamming going on. Probably hear it. Maybe if I slow it down, you'll hear it more. I don't know if that helps or not. I'll put it to close to the normal beat here. Now let's select Walk This Way, and we'll hear it tighten up. Now things are hitting together.
Amazing.
I love this feature. This is so great. Turn it off. sounds sloppy. Turn it on. And that's because our timing's at 100%. We can adjust that if we want. If we don't want it perfect for whatever reason, we can dial it back a little. Maybe we like a little flamming, maybe not. And now this beat has the walk this way vibe. And if I were to commit the groove by clicking this arrow, watch everything move around a little bit. So our notes got shifted. So this is a super awesome tool for adding groove to your music. Yeah, I'm really sad we don't have access to this like groove library. Your grooves, the ones you make, get saved in your user library under grooves, and you can find them. And let me give a little credit due to patches, patches.zone. If you're not familiar with patches, get familiar with patches.zone. He makes great stuff. Patches.zone. Here's the site.
Shout out to Patches.
Shout out to Patches.
Shout out to Patches. Lots of cool stuff in Patches world. Let's put this in here. But he's got, what would these be under? Packs, maybe? D'Angelo Grooves. Radiohead Groove Pack. So he went through like every album of Radiohead and D'Angelo and extracted the grooves for all of these songs so that you can have them in your music, and D'Angelo too. So we could go and find like our Radiohead grooves, and maybe like we like Kid A, let's say, and we really like the
Three fingers.
there's no beat. Isn't that the what is on this anyway?
I have no idea.
Is that it's like kind of like an ambient track?
Probably.
We'll pick one with a more steady beat. Just drag it right on there.
Okay.
Tree fingers. Let's try it. Sure. I like to experiment. So this is Tree Fingers. It's got some random to it.
Like it. It's got that flip.
Yeah, it's got a weird thing. Idiotech has a cool groove. Didn't drag it in the right place. Idiotech, which put it right there. But we can look at this too, like just to see what's on there. And this is some of the information we'll be quantizing too, which is super cool. And I believe those are free downloads also, so might as well grab them if you like the drummer from Radiohead or D'Angelo's drummer. These are some wild grooves. I'm not as familiar with D'Angelo's stuff, but I know it grooves. So some nice stuff there. The groove pool is super powerful. I love it. Like I said, you can take grooves from like your favorite songs. You hear a song you really like, extract the groove from it, and then now you've got it for your music. It's like sampling the feeling of the drummer. And a lot of times I think that's why we sample in the first place, is to get the feeling. But there's legality issues there. So I don't think there's anything against sampling the groove, though, and the timing. That's a different story. So you can kind of get away with that, I think. So let's see.
You'll remember.
I think we kind of covered most of the talk here. The points, groove pool. Yeah. Let's see. I wanted to just show you guys how cool Baby Audio stuff is, and like this. If you haven't tried iHeart New York yet, that you should have. Did you guys all get the email from them to get this? I'm pretty sure they
I
were sent out.
I have, but I haven't downloaded.
Okay, cool. It went through. That's good. It's a very manual process, I will say. For on my end, it's very difficult to get figure out who's all the current members, and it just gives me way more information than I need, and then they have to email everyone individually. So and I'm really thankful that they were willing to do that.
I've gotten the email. Let's say that
Good.
much.
Good.
So yes, I have the information, the email, all that stuff. I'm able to download.
So we did our job.
Yes, you did.
We led you to
But
the water.
But I'm on a Ned
drink.
Rush vein. I'm on a Ned Rush vein after your last video.
Oh, that's a long vein.
Oh, but that feedback tutorial. Oof.
Yeah. It sounds
That's
so
good
good,
stuff.
doesn't it? He shows
So
you how to make like guitar feedback using operator, and
I
yeah,
love it.
I listened to his whole record and I'm like, man, I love how he used his guitar for feedback on this thing. And I'd already seen
saw
the
you.
video.
You
And
got fooled.
I got fooled. Yeah, he told me in the podcast that he he used that device. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't
tricked
even
ya.
think of that.
tricked
It
ya.
just sounds so good.
And I want to use that as well. And I'm actually using it in conjunction with one of your guitar samples.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oof.
Please send that along when you put that together. I'd like to hear that.
Sure.
Let's spank these drums, as it says.
Thank them.
So the beauty of this is that you get like kind of the best of both worlds. You get your compression, but you also get that the dry signal. That's the word I'm looking for. So we still get like the dynamics, and we get all that like this control. It's so easy. It's just two knobs. Brings out so much energy in the sound. If you solo it, then you just get the process sound.
Ooh. A lot.
Yeah, it's intense. You can really hear it in that kick, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, kind of clipping and stuff, which is frowned upon.
No, it's not.
Yeah. It's gotten to the point, I guess, I don't know if it's like 32-bit float point is the thing that did it or whatnot, but yeah, sometimes like clipping doesn't sound so bad anymore.
Just clip a little. It's okay.
Yeah. Animus, what do you think about that? I have a feeling you probably know the technical angle of this pretty well.
Funny you should ask. So I've had that compressor for a while, like a year or two, I think. I got it for some other freebie, I think. And so I usually like analyze the stuff and see what it does to the frequency and whatever. So this one, when you turn up the spank, it does parallel compression according to, like, from what my research shows. They didn't just parallel compress. They would parallel compress with like a filtered signal, so you get a sort of a tonal effect going on.
Okay.
And so with this particular one, what it does is kind of a mid scoop, like a nice broad, smooth,
Okay.
not super deep, but there's a little bit of a mid scoop going there. So you're getting that V effect where your bass is boosted and your ultra highs. So yeah, if you try it maybe where it's not like pushing into your output limiter a whole bunch, like you might be able to hear that a little more clearly.
Hey,
But
Animus.
in your demonstration you did just there's definitely some distortion going on, which I think maybe it was caused by your limiter on your 2-bus.
Hey, Animus.
I do have one on here. Yeah.
What's up?
So there's the V scoop that you're saying that happens with the spank, correct? The spank causes the V scoop. What does the output do? Just boost the lows and the highs with that V?
the output you'd use to adjust the level out afterwards. So like if you're going to push
So-
it as hard as Brian just was, then I'd use the output to
Turn
pull
it
it down a
down low.
bit
Yeah.
so that your peak level's around where it was.
Okay, so it's post V is what you're saying. The V being the mid scoop, correct?
Yeah, the mid scoop and also the parallel signal. Like there's a little bit of it going on. And one thing I like about it is I also checked out the phase because anytime you're doing something with the tone, it's usually affecting the phase too.
Okay.
And it's got a really subtle effect on the phase. So
Nice.
it is really nice for use in parallel. Like even if you're using it in parallel, if that makes sense, you know.
Would you use that across the board or more on drums or more on keyboards or?
If you give me a second, I can look up. I probably have it in a template already.
Right, but I'm saying, is it more across the board as a compressor on everything, or more, hey, you want to use this on some drums, you want to use this on some keyboards, not on vocals, that kind of thing?
The rules.
Well, not rules.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'll break
yeah.
every rule. But I mean,
Right.
in your personal opinion, does it hurt vocals? Does it hurt guitar tone? In your opinion?
Well, this is
Animus.
okay.
Okay, so because I have so many different.
Sorry, Brian. I love you too.
I'll check them out and then I'll see like what would this be optimal for? What would this be helpful for?
Right.
Most likely. So this one I have a template called Smile Metalizer for a guitar.
Sure.
So basically, if I want to make a guitar have more of that like aggressive metal tone, like Metallica tone, then that's what that rack is specifically for. I have it stuck on there.
A good V scoop to make the Metallica tone is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's pretty subtle, and it's pretty smooth. So you could totally use that on the mix bus, on vocals, on whatever you want. Mainly just like if you have a lot of harshness or brightness going on in your mid-range zone, your upper mid-range, like 3K, 5K, stuff like that.
It's good to pull.
And you want to attenuate that a little bit. This compressor would be a great way to do that.
Excellent. No, that's good info.
It's definitely a tonal thing, you know, like if you want something that's like really transparent, this is not the one to grab.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
So it'd be great on guitars because guitars can kind of have fizziness going on when you record them digitally. And I think it'd be great on vocals because it kind of causes a little bit of automatic de-essing.
Okay. Yeah. No. These are things that I'm talking about for sure. It's like where in a chain or where in a production mix would something like this be effective? I think a lot of us who hit January and kind of fizzled on February, we're like, oh, now I've got to make it sound professional. So we think about effects and like, where should we place effects on our mixes? What effects work well? And again, Brian, no, screw the rules, of course. But you know,
they are
some
rules
like,
for a reason. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're commonalities. They're commonalities, and a lot of things have common things. And of course, a V scoop. You know, some of us, no offense to everybody, but some of us understand what a V scoop does. You know, you want to scoop the mids and push the highs and the lows. So I can see something like this being on like a brighter bass line. Good for drums. You got a good thump from the bass drum, and you got some shh from the cymbals and the snares.
And it doesn't hurt your ears.
Right, but it might not be best on blank thing. You don't want to use it on a mid-range keyboard tone that might cut it out. Am I wrong?
Yeah, if you want something mid-range forward, like if you want to add some more crispness to vocals, then maybe not the best.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, no, Animus, awesome info.
Yeah, and on that, I don't think of them as rules. I just think of it as a starting point. Like you could start with everything flat and neutral, or you could start with a starting point that's maybe going to give you halfway there. Right. Then you tweak with all the knobs and all that stuff to get where you really want to go.
Awesome. Thank you.
This might be nice too when you want to make a little room for stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, the drums might be taken away from that key part. Put this on the drums. Might give you a little space in that area.
Yeah, clear up a little congestion.
And again, I'm coming at this from a new producer kind of thing. You know, we all wrote a lot of songs in January, and now we're trying to produce them and make them sound ready air quotes, ready for people to listen to. And there might be a lot of buildup in the mids. So, hey, pop this mid scooper on your drums, and that might kind of help bring out your keyboard parts a little better. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it could be really good on bass too, because it'll bring up your low mids and also kick drum.
Right, and bring up those high plings maybe on a bass.
Yeah, exactly. Your string noise or the attack on a kick.
Brian, who does a beautiful guitar thing that he did, your guitar thing that you put out last month. The acoustic guitar thing that you made.
Oh, the classical guitar.
Yeah. So there's some good low end rumbles from that, and there's some good high end plings. I'm not saying throw the scooper on that. You want all the range of that, but if you want to scoop some bass to help some mids from that pop out, this plugin might be good.
Yeah, might be good, like around it on other things. Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. I'm sorry.
No. Good point. And it it has this kind of like slightly ambiguous description, this like nonlinear magic, EQ, like, mystical qualities. So it's nice to hear a more technical analysis.
Well, yeah, and it's worth keeping in mind that effect on the frequency, since it is a compressor, is going to be nonlinear, which is really nice in my opinion. It's not just going to be static, drastic across the whole mix. It's only going to be pushing that down when audio is pushing into it.
Right. Okay. Nice. Yeah. It's cool because like the thing I love about it is just it's so simple, and it kind of does its job, and it does seem to have like a kind of specific use case, but it's very nice. Let me bust out my hybrid reverb while I'm at it, because I think we can use a little. I think I still have this right here for now. Okay, our Dank Verb. We got.
I do like the Dank Verb sounds. I definitely did download that, and I love it.
Cool.
And when are you going to put out the bottle?
Oh, yeah, I have it on my desktop.
I want the bottle.
Oh man! All right, bottle. Write this down. I know I wrote it down already, but now I wrote it bigger.
Well, I want to run it through a resonator.
Okay, cool. I don't know. Let's hear some putrid ambience. So we'll set this. I got the hybrid reverb. We'll set it into convolution mode here, and we're gonna give it a run. We'll put it down. So we get like some like high end there, so maybe we'll tame that a little. I'm just gonna go through a few of these. I love this. Is just so nice how they have it set up so that you can just flip through the folders here. Yeah. Catacomb. Bring down the decay if you like that. And we are also, don't forget. Look how quiet we got. We go into maybe a different folder. Arena.
Uh-oh.
Is that going? It's like what I think is so cool about these is it's and I don't know if this is how you like to describe them, but I they're almost like it's more than reverb. It's like world or atmosphere, or it's vibe. It puts like a feeling.
Agreed.
This one got cropped. It's cool. We got the lower one.
Well, if anybody has any questions about like how I made them or anything, now's the time to ask, I guess, because you got me here.
How did you make them?
Yes. How did you make them?
Okay, I was looking for my notes, but I can't find them, so I'll just go from memory as well as I can. The basic idea was, so I have another like a secondary organization scheme to deal with the fact I have so many plugins,
Okay.
where it's basically by color. And so I kind of took that idea, and then it's basically just the color of the GUI. So like for iHeart New York, that would be red because it's red and gray, and gray is kind of a neutral color, so red's prominent. So that would go in the folder that's like with red colored effects. And so then I took like all the different reverb plugins of a particular color, and then I stacked them up into a rack, and then mathematically figured out like what the value was that I had to reduce the level by so that it was equivalent to just one audio going through.
Sure.
And then I like figured out the different settings, like a low, a mid, and a high, and then the different time lengths, and different also like the LFOs and all those other different parameters and whatnot, and then had to tweak them by ear a whole bunch, and then ran those through at a really high sample rate where there's no way the computer would actually be able to do it in real time because there's too many reverb plugins, but I was able to like take an IR of it. And so basically they're super dense combinations of a whole bunch of different reverbs all together. And I think that's why they have more of a realistic vibe actually, because in the real world, we're hearing echoes that are super complex. We're hearing all sorts of different micro reverberations going on with different movements and different tones and colors based on the different objects in the rooms we're in and all that stuff. So I think these kind of subconsciously capture that a little bit.
Okay. So the Dank reverb is your creation?
Yep, all the IRs I made that way.
Oh, nice. I'm really enjoying them. That's what I'm gonna say. I like them a lot.
Awesome, good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I got them on like kind of extreme, right? But like interesting things happen when you do like the fades are really nice too. If you guys played with the attack on it, it kind of lets you get like the impact a little bit. You can do that with the pre-delay too. And the pre-delay even has like a rhythmic component to it. Now the delay is almost like
it's breathing.
It's like percussion. It's really fun. It sounds like another instrument at this point.
I'll be back.
You know, automate this for like all kinds of like crazy stuff. Listen to that feedback going. I've stopped the audio and it just keeps pumping away. Really cool. Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them too. You just get lost in it after a while. Did I add a new one in? What did I do? Oh, I put in a simpler. This is something I haven't tried. I haven't tried using these as like in a sampler. There's probably a whole other world of fun things you can do with them there.
Use the samples directly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be fun for sound design and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is another rabbit hole we can travel down. Kind of like percussion. And, yeah, I don't know. Really cool though. It's nice to get I like the spirit of the kind of like grimy places too, as opposed to like nice churches and proper music halls and concert venues.
Yeah, we have enough of that already, right?
Right. We need neurotic hall.
Give me a bathroom with 3 sinks.
Look, I deleted my whole drum rack. A bathroom with 3 sinks.
Yeah, just based on the sound of these, like it was experimental making them. I had no idea what they were going to end up like. But
Mhm.
yeah, I ended up naming them based on how they felt. So they all ended up being very dark, more sinister sounding things, and especially with the really long decay tails they tend to have. Figured they'd be good for sound design for movies and podcasts and things like that. Like
Mm,
if you have a troll's cave where you want some booming sound, that
yeah.
might be the perfect reverb for it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's just like now it's like a sound effect. Really neat. Cool stuff. Hybrid reverb is live 11 only. But if you have Max for live, then you will have convolution reverb.
Yes.
Maybe you need to download it off of Ableton's site. I'm not sure, but it comes with Max for Live. It might be in the Max for Live Essentials pack.
Hey,
But
Brian,
yes.
since you're about to bring a convolution reverb in, with max 10, with live 10 and max, not live 11, so where the convolution reverb and the regular reverb are stacked together. So you're bringing in convolution reverb now. Would you want to create an effects rack where you have like one with that and one with a regular reverb to imitate the modern the new 11 convolution reverb, or would that not really do it? Do you understand what I'm saying?
So can you like sort of recreate hybrid reverb in like some kind of audio effect rack?
Right, where you have convolution reverb on one chain and then regular reverb on another chain. Is that creating the same effect, or is that different than what modern?
Not the same reverb, but similar. You could
It's a
totally do
similar
that.
concept, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. It's a similar concept, correct?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
like hybrid reverb has a lot of really cool algorithmic reverbs.
Sure.
Which I'm finding like completely fascinating. Like,
So what you're saying is the modern hybrid reverb is both reverbs are kind of battling with each other. They're affecting each other a little bit, as
yeah,
opposed to having 2 chains with one convolution reverb and a regular reverb.
right. You have some
Yeah,
choices over how they're running. You can have just the algorithm, just the convolution.
Right. So
You can have them
parallels both of them hitting together.
and serial is one, then the next one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I'm getting at.
But you could, I mean, we could group this up, right? We could do it a couple ways. We'd have to do it a couple ways. We can put like our reverb here. Now we have like the parallel kind of version.
Right. And I guess in some ways you could make one reverb affect the other reverb using some kind of max live effect, correct? Like using like a envelope follower, maybe.
Yeah.
I've often done that where I use the envelope follower to alter how the reverb affects.
Right. So one reverb effect affects the other one through an envelope follower. Does that make sense?
Yeah, or the dry signal.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean that's so what I'm saying is for folks who don't have Live 11 right now, there's fun ways to mess around with things to get a similar effect.
Yep. I think that's the beauty of like racks and live, and the way you can build your own kind of like effects chains and layers of effects or instruments or whatever, is you can sort of like recreate a lot of things. It can save you a lot of money once you kind of know like what you're doing with them. You might not need to get this other plugin because you can sort of recreate it or approximate it anyway through different
Brian,
processes.
oh
Yeah.
no, that's why I'm saying thank you for introducing me to Ned Rush, because he's saved me a lot of money.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. No, some of the stuff he does, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, it takes that effect away. That X VST would bring me. It's all there in live.
Yeah, and
Mad genius.
his videos where he's just kind of making music and experimenting are so cool because he's like just dropping like technique after technique, process after process, and
well, and a solid knowledge of like ASDR type stuff as well. You know, just old school technology and how live kind of recreates that with some of their stuff.
Yeah, he knows how it works and he knows how to use it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love watching what he does. And
have you guys heard the new track that he dropped on Bandcamp? It's a preview for his new album.
I'm gonna.
The whole album's out now.
The whole album's out now. Okay,
yep.
I missed that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to check that out because the preview track he dropped was fire.
Yeah, it's like it's so cool because it's like a lot of like breakbeat stuff, like drum and bass, all chopped up and glitched out like he tends to do. But then
I'm pretty sure he's recording all those drums himself too.
He does.
No, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that on the podcast.
No, it's great.
He a lot of it too is kind of interesting. Like he'll just kind of record drums on a certain day and just play around, and then he goes and he's got this sort of collection of drum ideas and brings it in and starts chopping and layering with samples. And it's a really nice process, and I really like how he divides the different tasks. So one day he's just recording drums, and then the next day he's got all of his stuff, and now he's putting tracks together. And then he's using a lot of like the same kind of drum techniques on his guitar parts. He's an insane guitar player too. He did
his guitar playing is fucking insane.
Yeah, he did I'm also live stream on Saturday when he like for a celebration of the album, and he's just like he just shreds.
But I will say his howling feedback tutorial is amazing. It's phenomenal. I was like, oh wow, I have a feedback guitar as a keyboard. Amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
I know from experience, like you're like dancing around the amp, moving your guitar, trying to find out what note to like hold down on the guitar, and different guitars resonate different notes, and it's awesome, it's fun, but you can be so precise with his method. We should have a link to that in this chat because that's like the 20th time we've talked about it.
Don't forget the bottle.
The
bottle.
Let's see if this howling feedback without a guitar. Here we go.
No, it's an amazing tutorial, by the way.
We will put this in the chat. I don't know if I should show like the video on this because it might be told I'm breaking the law.
It might get weird.
But it's a great. I can't believe I didn't thumbs up it. Change that. Like it. Pretty cool. I mean, it's been watched almost 6,000 times, 388 likes, and 1 dislike. One person.
That was me. No, not really.
That's someone that's mad that it's got all those likes. Because it's awesome.
It's a good tutorial. No, it's a good tutorial.
Well, nice, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Whoops. I think I'm gonna have to call it here.
Okay.
Myself, let the dogs out and wind down. But it's really great having you here and talking about all this stuff, and I appreciate you guys chiming in with your own perspectives and stuff. Really,
Animus, thank you again for the reverbs. Awesome stuff. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. There's gonna be more freebies coming and pack stuff for the club.
Good.
Oh, thanks, man.
Good to hear.
That's so awesome.
Thanks a lot. A great session.
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, and thanks for having this. And I'm glad to be part of the club, man. This is good stuff.
Thanks. I'm so happy you guys like this. It's really cool. I have so much fun doing it. So it's it's just we're sharing this thing we love to do. It's
yes.
Great times.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in all the way across the world. I appreciate that. That's so cool.
Go Jack.
Yes, thank you.
Cheers, Brian, and thanks everyone. It was really cool to listen to y'all talk about the stuff.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part of it.